Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Saturday. It's the release day of this Warcry Bloodhunt, so I'm running it a little on the late side, but you know, if I get it out today, I'll say it's kind of on time. So this is, search for it, you probably know what this is, but it's GW's latest Warcry box set, and I'll have to be fair, they've pumped out quite a few of these boxes. Quite a few of the Kill Team ones too, to be fair. But what I really like about all these boxes, because again, like if you, in any way, shape or form, know the sort of things that I'm more into, it's the terrain by far. Look, while I'm personally not the biggest fan of the trees in this particular sort of series, I do like that it's, you know, very unique. All the bamboo sort of pieces, certainly different to most of the other terrain that I've ever built. Certainly different to all the GW terrain that I've built. And you know, look, it's going to go with all the other these boxes that I've opened up, and reality is I probably get 2 tables out of it. I'm not sure if I'm going to ultimately, I've built all the other terrain, but I'm not sure if when it comes to painting it, if I would maybe modify the trees a little bit, like I could throw some colour foliage on there or something and basically just pretend they're regular trees. And then it would be a little bit more versatile to use in other gaming sets, but as is, kind of got to stay where it's at. Anyhow, Warcry Bloodhunt, there it is. Let's have a look what's in the box. So, as I said, while the theme of this, so unlike the Kill Team stuff where it's like, you know, 80 whatever % of the terrain is identical to previous boxes, and then you get a couple of sprues that are new and different, this is vastly different, if not entirely different, but all in the same theme. So it'll all go with it, and you probably get a couple of tables out of it. So there is, let's see if we can maybe make that a little bit better. Sprue number 1. So unlike a lot of the other ones, this one is going to have, while it'll have some platforms, it's actually got some like walls out of the bamboo, which the other ones don't have. It's more like, oh yeah, we've got, you know, walkway bridges, we've got some platforms around the tree. There's one on like a big piece of bone, one on a skull, I think. This is where it's probably a little bit repetitive. So this sprue of Scatter, which has got a couple of suspension bridges, but these smaller parts, you know, I've built, you know, like 6 or whatever of those already. Is what it is. These trees, okay, don't get me wrong, they're really cool and certainly different and unique, as I mentioned earlier. They are an absolute pain in the butt to stick together. When you got these sorts of gaps, you could probably switch around the branches, but everything I've built so far I've done like as is, because all the trees have been different. If it turns out that I have any duplication of trees in this box, I will maybe like assemble them in a different way if possible. But all the joints down here, they only go together one way, so I mean that's good. And I'm one of those idiots who will just cut all of it off the sprue, clean it all up, and then just build it. I'm not going to cut like these 6 pieces off or go one bit at a time. But you know, I like jigsaw puzzles, so it gives me the kick in that regard. So yeah, another sprue there. This one is different to that, but again, some nice big sort of wall sections and maybe some platforms around the trees. So lots and lots of big slabs of bamboo in that. Some more tree parts, essentially. And then we have our 2 warbands. So I mean, you know, like honestly, that's not that much. You know, isn't that a pretty picture? Is it really? But we have some vampire type ones in here. Cool board. You know, I would hope that it would be slightly, ever so slightly different to the ones I already have, and yet it should still match up perfectly. So I could build like a really big table for a big game, or I could build a couple of smaller ones, or I could have like, you know, 4 little Warcry boards, I think, with this theme of stuff. Memory serves, maybe I've got more. I got so much terrain, it's not funny. Yeah, it's always a show. I mean, do I like neoprene mats? Of course I like neoprene mats, alright? Who doesn't like neoprene mats? But, you know, there's something about these boards that is nice. I do like, I keep everything folded up nice and neat when not in use, but everything folded up, let's not go with nice and neat. If you've been in this store, you know that sometimes it can look pretty darn messy. Where it's like, well, you know, if I'm not having an event, it doesn't really need to be that tidy, does it? As long as I've got some game tables to play on. Other side, there we have it. Yeah, look, I like the quality of the images on the cardboard, but I do worry about, like, you know, eventually some idiot's going to try and fold it the wrong way, like I've had kids do to board game boards. And, you know, you're going to get scuffed on the edges when they're stored in and out. So when you fold them out, you're going to have, you know, some white marks and stuff. It's, look, while they're in good nick, great. Ultimately, I think a mat's got better longevity. And of course, GW had to be so friendly and change the standard size when they introduced these boards from what they had. So, you know, other people out there were cutting their mats down. What I find hilarious, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, is people were cutting their mats down. Oh yeah, 40K's got new, you know, size table. Yep, it did, still does. Who knows what 10th edition might have. Then they go and bring out 30K, which, you know, doesn't mean if you play 40K you're going to play 30K and vice versa, but it's certainly possible. Go read the 30K rulebook. What are we playing on? 6x4s. Hope you kept those few inches of mat you cut off. So look, we've got another Warcry book here that's got, you know, got heaps of stuff in it. Like, do I want to go through all of it? No. But, you know, it's got some nice pictures, obviously. It's got some stuff specific, I suppose, probably to this terrain. It's got profiles and a campaign type thing specific to the new warbands that we're getting in there. But I mean, look, here's an example, you know, not of the warbands, but that is a beautiful section of wall, which will be blocking some line of sight. I like it. I'm going to be keen to get it painted up. Again, is the tree what I love? Not sure about the tree, but the bamboo bits I'm liking. The crappy bit is scatter stuff on that page. Let's see. Yes, we've had this one, we've had this one, we've had this one, we've had this one, and we've had this one. So if this is your very first box because you only wanted one of these 2 warbands, or you just got into the hobby, hey, you got some. If you've got every single one of these boxes, as I do, you're starting to get a little bit over that. So it's like, well, you know, can I ruin them a bit more, perhaps? To create some variety. Maybe I'll even glue some down on some base pieces, just in different configurations to make them a little bit quicker. You know, being the mass nerd that I am, I definitely have issues like when I put some scatter down that I don't have to physically get a base and move between it usually to make sure it's got some spacings, but I've got to eyeball it, and you know, it's tweaking the pieces here and there just so you know that everyone's got a bit of a chance to maneuver through. I know Warcry rules, I kind of like this part about Warcry rules. If you're sitting up on some platform, you can have your base overhang the edge of it as long as the center of the base is like on the platform itself. And that's in the rules, and then there's no ambiguity. Whereas other games that I might play lots more of, let's say Middle-earth strategy battle game, theoretically the model should sit flat on the table, and I get real issues when people cleaning their models up like this. And okay, sometimes there could be, you know, some pebbles, you know, rocks or whatever on the ground, and you say, well, yeah, okay, cool, that kind of makes sense. That same logic when someone takes an eagle at a major event and you've travelled in a state for, and they just want to like, oh, I don't know, come over here and like and wedge it in. You know, can you even see what I'm doing here? You know, wedge it in there. Does that fill you with confidence? And what's better is, so you get the TO to come over and say, you know, is this legal? And he's like, hell no. So you continue playing the game and you know, making sure you're leaving small gaps like that so the eagles can't get into you, let's say ruffians. And then a little bit later in the same tournament, TO comes over and goes, yeah, it's perfectly fine. What the? Like, again, travel in a stay, we're paying for a hotel, paying for flights, and I'm getting completely different calls off the same guy at the same event in the same situation, and then that leads me to lose a game, and basically, if you lose, you're out. So, you know, it's important to remember consistency. But as I say, in terms of Warcry, you're allowed to overhang as long as the center. I think that's a great rule. I don't know why they don't port that rule over to a bunch of other things. As long as the center is on something, it's fine. And the rule is the model must sit flat. The model has to sit flat, well, there's no ambiguity there. Some people, you know, maybe model their terrain because it looks like awesome. And I guess that's great if you're making a diorama and you just want to put it on display. Do what you will. If, on the other hand, you're trying to make playable terrain, I guess you kind of need to make sure your staircases are, you know, 25 mil, 1 inch wide, or, you know, whatever the basis of the game that you're playing is. You know, walkways are that, gap between buildings is that, otherwise, what's going to fit in between? So anyway, that is what it is. You know, yeah, some bases, who cares about bases? Some cards, there'll be some cards there for the actual profiles on the warbands, but the vast majority of those I expect to be the like terrain layouts. So it's been a while since I've actually played a game of Warcry, but you had multiple decks. I actually really like the game though. Sort of quick to play. I think it's a great game as a bit of a filler in the middle of an event. If you've got some spare tables, I'd have a few tables of this setup. But yeah, so you draw a card and it shows you the table, like the board, and it shows you the various terrain pieces that come with this set. It shows you where to place them. I guess that takes the, oh, he didn't place it fairly type BS out of it. I wouldn't use that deck. But the concept of it takes the thing out of it, I guess that's great. I mean, personally, as a TO, I like to set the terrain up. I try and really, you know, consider what is fair. I try and make things consistent. The math nerd in me tries to make things symmetrical. That axis may be like, you know, like through the center line, but it could be a diagonal, or it could be like rotational symmetry, whatever. I try and have an element of symmetry on my boards. I wouldn't give one person the ruins and one person the open field. I'd rotate the board around. We both have some ruins or something, and we both have some open field or some forest or whatever. That seems much more reasonable. But anyway, what do we have in this one? We have some vampires, I believe. And Claws of Karanak and Asurgan True Blades. Alright, so, you know, whatevs. Probably join the ranks of many of my other things, although the vampires I'm going to keep. The other ones, yeah, probably, I think it was a Warcry box, the very first Warcry box that came out, where I saw the difference in like new GW minis versus the old ones that I've been mucking about with for years. So, you know, you take your Warrior of Minas Tirith that's, you know, over 20 years old now. 20 something years ago, you thought, oh my god, this guy looks amazing. Alright, such detailed sculpt, and now you're like, my printer could do like a better job on a bad day, you know, with like crap all over the screen. But the detail on the first Warcry minis was just, it was like next level. And because it's like a warband where it's not just like 5, 6, whatever soldiers the same. Everyone's their own unique person. Obviously, there's commonalities in terms of theme, but the arm is different, the weapons are different between each one. Really awesome, and all of those warbands I think that I can remember putting together from the earlier sets. I haven't done any of the like onward stuff, but those original sets, if you there'd always be a couple of minis, and it's like a lot of the GW kits where you can change that weapon arm, and it is like the arm or something to be say axe versus hammer or sword, or you can do different head, or you give them a banner or whatever. And everything goes together so seamlessly. It really is pretty cool. The detail on the minis is just it's awesome. It's only when I look at minis of this quality that I look at my resin prints and go, ooh, okay, maybe there's still room for improvement there. And I guess that's a bit of twofold. Like, there is limitations on the printer, and I don't have the latest, greatest printer anymore. Although I was looking at some this morning. But there's also, I guess if you're a designer, you don't want to design all your minis to be only good for the latest, greatest printer on the highest resolution. Otherwise, your detail is going to be obliterated and it's going to cause problems. You want it to be kind of, one size fits all. And just, what I mean by that is, I think maybe, say, a sword blade in some of these would be quite thin, almost sharp on the edge. And if you get a print, some people just, I guess, to make it a bit more sturdy, to make it not such a problem, they would make them a little bit thicker. And if you're looking closely, it kind of looks like a blunt sword or a blunt axe. Whereas, like, I'm looking at some spearheads here, and I'm sure it'll snap if I stab myself, but, I could potentially draw blood if I really tried to just jam it into myself, whereas resin ones, not a chance. Even some of these spiky bits over here, you could almost imagine them being sharp. They're not, but they're quite fine. Of course, you've got to be careful just cutting them off the sprue, lest they break, and be mindful that they don't break later. But yeah, awesome quality. We'll put the vampires together. Not sure on the others. Look, I probably should. Like, I'm terrible at selling anything that I deem that is like from a broken up box or something. I like to just sell things in boxes or my own prints or whatever. So I may as well just, like, once I get through the incredibly large backlog that we all have of painting and assembly, I should probably build up all these warbands, and then, like I say, when I have an event, I could just have them out on half a dozen tables, and just grab a warband, play a game. Once you've learned how to play it for the first couple of times, you'll be bashing out a game of this in 20, 30 minutes. So yeah, look, it's a good game, nice and quick, and if that's what you're into, that's great. I like the campaign element, which I like in any game where you can, like, I guess, level up, and get artifacts and whatnot. It's probably a bit of a simplistic level up system compared to maybe some other ones like Battle Companies, which I absolutely love. Cannot emphasize that enough. Can't find people to play it, of course. I think everyone, what happens is when you play that Battle Companies game too much, you end up with characters that are ridiculously overpowered. Like, they make Legolas and Aragorn look, like wusses who will fall over like wet paper bags, and then no one wants to play with you. I mean, they get a hell of a lot of re-rolls, but they can re-roll to their heart's content. You're going to throw that many dice down with that much might behind it, you're just going to win. Whereas I think this, is probably a little bit more balanced. You can't make super OP individuals. I mean, some models will be more powerful than others, just, but as a basic sense. But overall, I'll say the warbands are somewhat balanced. course, there's an element of paper, scissors, rock to it. There's what's strong or weak against something else, but that's just the way it goes. Anyway, I'll just ramble on all day if I keep trying. So, look, we get some nice new terrain. As I said, you know, these two bits primarily. There we go. Most of which is like wall pieces. So giving some really nice blocking terrain. And then, as I say, you couple that with, so you only get a couple of like walkway bridges on this one, but like the first one I think had 4 walkway bits. So, but all cross-compatible, mix and match to your heart's content. Not if you're going to play the terrain layout deck, but if you're just going to make, you know, your own layouts, absolutely can mix and match. Obviously, it's got a lot of, you know, skeletons and skulls in it, you know, as pretty much everything that GW ever does has. But to be honest, it's not even, I mean, there's bones in the terrain, like, you know, from something big. But like in terms of the skeletons, yeah, I can see a couple right there. But I've seen, I think it might have been the very first Warcry box. The terrain in that, you know, there was skeletons all over the spiky bits. There was a couple of skeletons hanging off the bell tower. There was skeletons everywhere. This doesn't feel as much, but they are there. All right. So yeah. Anyway, look. Hope that was a little bit informative. If you've already, you know, pre-ordered it and got your box, fantastic. If you didn't pre-order it, you're probably starting to get out of luck because it's like most things, you know, GW work on the FOMO method, and that fear of missing out really leads us to needing the impulse buy. I need to generally order a huge amount of stock the week preceding the day when things officially go up for pre-order, when I can actually make an announcement and put it up online for pre-order. So making those judgment calls, you know, how many I order in, I don't want to have too many left on the shelf, etc. And, you know, if I remove the green screen, you'd see, like, you know, some of my epic failures of the past where you see a multitude of Dominion boxes that are still on the shelf. You'll see some Kill Team Octarius boxes on the shelf, though I have actually moved 3 of those in the last month or so. So, you know, if you're out there, customers who bought those, thank you very much. But yeah, so I don't want to end up too much. So once again, I have none of these left. Well, they're all allocated, I should say. But, you know, if you were interested in trying to get some of these sorts of things in the future, it won't be this box, but, you know, maybe the next box or the box thereafter. If you let me know what you're interested in, I will obviously try and amend my numbers as best I can, try and accommodate you, and see that you're a happy camper. Anyway, look, again, hope it was informative. Yay for vampires. I've got it done on the Saturday of release, as long as I get it up tonight, although I'm going to see Ant-Man later. So we'll see how we go. Thanks for watching. Join us next time when I will hopefully be doing some more with my boarding action stuff. So yeah, catch you next time. Bye.